1. When your prayers seem unanswered. Have you ever felt like God isn't listening to your prayers? You've been asking for something, health, finances, a new opportunity, but nothing seems to change. If you're in this situation, don't lose heart. You may not realize that God is not only listening, but also working behind the scenes. However, the way He blesses us is not always in the way we expect. Many people make this mistake, believing that because they don't see immediate results, God must have forgotten them. But what they don't know is that in that silence, God is preparing something far greater than they can imagine. 2. A common misconception: when silence is an answer. One of the biggest misconceptions people have is thinking that if God doesn't answer right away, it means He isn't working. But here's a powerful truth: God's delay is not a denial, it is preparation. Imagine praying for a new job, but no opportunity appears. You think God isn't helping, but in reality, He might be closing the wrong doors and preparing a better position for you. Or perhaps you're asking for a relationship, but instead of receiving what you want, you go through loneliness and trials. This could be God's way of shaping you, ensuring that when the right person arrives, you'll be ready. God doesn't work according to human schedules. He works according to His perfect timing. 3. The story of Joseph, from slave to Pharaoh's right hand. No story illustrates God's preparation better than the story of Joseph in the Bible. Joseph had big dreams, visions from God about a glorious future. But before he reached that destiny, he endured unimaginable hardships. He was betrayed by his own brothers and sold into slavery. He was falsely accused and imprisoned for a crime he didn't commit. He spent years in the shadows, uncertain of when he would be freed. If we look at Joseph's situation at the time, many would assume that God had abandoned him. But in reality, every hardship Joseph faced was part of God's greater plan. If he hadn't been sold as a slave, he wouldn't have arrived in Egypt. If he hadn't been imprisoned, he wouldn't have met Pharaoh's servant. And if he hadn't met that servant, he wouldn't have had the opportunity to interpret the king's dream, which led to his rise as Pharaoh's right-hand man. Everything Joseph suffered wasn't a sign of God's absence. It was a sign that God was preparing him for something greater. And the same is true for you. 4. The testing and refining phase, when God prepares you for a greater blessing. Did you know that before every great blessing, there is often a period of testing and transformation? This is not a punishment, but God's way of shaping and preparing you to receive something greater. The Bible says in James 1 verses 2-3, "Consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance." This means that every trial is not a sign of failure, but an opportunity to grow in faith, patience, and spiritual strength. Pushpin real-life example. Someone prays for a better job, but ends up getting laid off. At first, they feel devastated, but this event later leads them to a much greater opportunity they never expected. Someone prays for a loving relationship, but instead, they go through a season of loneliness. This time alone helps them develop self-love and maturity, preparing them for the right person. God doesn't just bless. He prepares people to receive His blessings properly. 5. Recognizing the signs. God is working in your life. Many people fail to see that the difficulties in their lives are actually part of God's divine plan. So how do you recognize that God is working in your life? Sign number 1. Doors are closing, but you feel something greater is ahead. Sometimes God doesn't open the door you want immediately. Instead, He closes the wrong doors to keep you from heading in the wrong direction. Sign number 2. You feel an inner transformation. God doesn't just change your external circumstances. He changes you from within, helping you develop strength, patience, and deeper faith. Sign number 3. You keep facing the same lessons repeatedly. If you keep encountering similar challenges or life lessons, it may be that God is trying to teach you something important before He moves you to the next level. 6. Conclusion. Trust in God's plan. You may be in a difficult season, but don't lose hope. If God is testing you, it's a sign that He is preparing something greater for you. Remember, Delays are not denials. Every trial has a purpose. Every pain carries meaning. God is working even when you don't see it. Stay faithful, because the best is yet to come. Key signs that God is preparing to bless you. When God is about to release a great blessing into your life, He often sends signals. These signs may not always appear as you expect, but if you recognize them, you'll understand that something extraordinary is on the way. Sign 1. A major trial before breakthrough. Have you ever noticed that the greatest challenges often come right before a major breakthrough? You might face unexpected difficulties, opposition, or failures that shake your faith. You might encounter enemies trying to discourage you or obstacles that seem impossible to overcome. Reality check. This is not a sign of defeat. It's a setup for a greater transformation. Throughout the Bible, before God elevated His people, they often faced intense trials. Joseph was imprisoned before becoming a ruler. David was hunted before becoming king. Even Jesus faced suffering before His resurrection. If you're facing a big challenge, it may mean your blessing is just around the corner. Sign 2. Separation from certain people. Before God blesses you, He often removes people from your life who may hinder your growth. A friendship may suddenly end. A relationship may break apart. You may feel isolated or misunderstood. Biblical example. Even Jesus stepped away from the crowds to prepare for significant events in His ministry. God sees what you cannot. Some people in your life may not be meant to walk with you into the next season. Instead of resisting these separations, trust that God is making room for better relationships and divine connections. Sign 3. A spiritual restlessness. Sometimes when God is about to do something new, you feel an uneasy stirring in your spirit. You sense that something is shifting, but you can't explain why. You feel drawn to pray more, seek God deeper, and reflect on your purpose. You may feel dissatisfied with your current situation, even if nothing is wrong. Biblical reference. Isaiah 43 verse 19. See, I'm doing a new thing. Now it springs up. Do you not perceive it? This spiritual restlessness is a sign that God is preparing you for something greater. Instead of ignoring it, lean into prayer and ask God for guidance. Sign 4. Unexpected doors opening. One of the clearest signs that God is at work is when opportunities arise effortlessly. The job offer you weren't expecting appears. The right people suddenly enter your life. The perfect opportunity presents itself without force. Biblical reference. Proverbs 3, 5-6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways submit to Him, and He will make your paths straight. When doors open naturally and everything aligns perfectly, it's a sign that God is directing your path. Your job is to stay ready and trust His timing. Call to action. Keep the faith. If you recognize these signs in your life, hold on to your faith. Even if you don't see immediate results, trust that God is working behind the scenes. Keep praying. Keep believing. Keep moving forward. Your blessing is coming. Conclusion and call to engagement. Everything you're experiencing right now is not random. God is leading you towards something greater. The trials you face are not signs of rejection, but of preparation. The delays are not denials, but divine timing. The changes in your life are God's way of aligning you with His perfect plan. If you believe that God is working in your life, comment Amen below as a declaration of faith. If you want to receive more messages of hope and spiritual encouragement, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you never miss an update. Remember, God's plan is always greater than what we can see. Trust Him, stay faithful, and watch His blessings unfold.